Hi, I'm Aleka Williams. I'm the Senior Vice President of People and Culture here at Discovery. I know you saw me earlier as a panelist, and I'm thrilled to be back again to facilitate a conversation with our next keynote speaker, our very own Tina Perry. And let me just say, you are in for a real treat. She was named President of OWN, Oprah Winfrey Network, in 2019. Tina Perry oversees all operations and creative areas of the network, reporting to OWN Chairman and CEO Oprah Winfrey. Her leadership is driving force behind the network's ongoing evolution to become the leading destination for Black audiences. Tina, welcome, and thank you for joining us today.
Thank you for having me. I'm so excited to have this conversation today.
We're so excited to have you here. So let's just jump in. Why don't you share a little bit about your journey to get here and what you would go back and tell your college self about your career path?
Okay, so my journey is a little unusual, at least I believe. I'm from Oklahoma City, Oklahoma, the middle of the country. And as much as I loved television and film, I never knew you could work in it. I was the kid whose parents dropped them off at the movie theater on Saturday mornings and picked me up at the end of the day because I would sit there all day and watch films. And it wasn't until the end of college when I took, actually, it was an art history course, I began to understand like there were creative people who made these things, made things for us to enjoy. And it was a living. And I kind of took from that course, wow, that happens in film and in television. And it just opened my mind. I started to try to learn more and more about the industry. And I realized it was centered in New York and LA, where I had no connections. I was doing a lot of deep thought about what I wanted to do with my life. And I was a political science major. I loved social policy issues. I loved trying to make the world better, but wasn't sure how I was going to mesh this all together. And I actually chose to go to law school after graduate school. I had gotten some advice that law school is a good experience to have if you want to go into entertainment, because the whole industry is a big negotiation. But I did go to law school. And after law school, I went to practice corporate law. I didn't have the relationships or networking platform to get into the industry. I also had a lot of debt that I needed to get cleared. So I needed to work and make money. And while I was in law school practicing corporate law in New York, I continued to consume content. I read about the industry all the time. I tried to meet people working in it. I read entertainment biographies. You name it, I was doing it while I was practicing corporate law. And then through networking and doing informationals and meeting people, I had the privilege of someone giving my resume to a person at Viacom. And I got a chance to move from corporate law to go work at Viacom in their business and legal affairs department. Well, that ultimately led to me from starting in New York in their business and legal affairs to going to their LA business and legal affairs. And then I had the privilege of getting the opportunity to move over to OWN 2 years before the network launched and help launch the network. And so I've now been at OWN 12 years. My position and experience there grew and expanded over time. And so that's a little bit about my career path. What I would tell myself, the college Tina, is that your path is going to be the best path for you. I spent a lot of time in college and in grad school and even practicing corporate law, lamenting and worrying about who I didn't know and how I could meet and how I could end up being a part of the industry, because I always felt like I was behind. I always felt like, I didn't go to film school. I wasn't, based out of LA. I didn't know Quincy Jones or a big agent. How was it going to happen? But I realize now that my path and my journey was the right path and journey for me. Every step of the way, I continued to learn, try to meet people, absorb about this industry, and stay incredibly reflective about what were my passion points and what did I want to do with my career in the industry and what impact did I want to have. And that helped me in every job and every position and every experience to try to make the most of it, but also helped me keep my North Star ahead of me. So that's what I'd tell college Tina. And I can tell you, I would get a lot of time back if she could have heard that advice.
I love that. That's great advice. And what a tremendous story. I know that's helpful to hear. I feel like I know you so well, and yet here's other things I wasn't aware of. So thank you for sharing that. I guess along those same lines, we have several students and recent graduates that are here today who are interested in careers in the media industry specifically. What advice would you give them to prepare for this industry specifically?
Well, I mean, several pieces of advice to prepare. So one is you have to stay curious about the industry and on every front. I encourage you to read as much as you can, not just on the internet, but if you're in school classes, with your classes, take them very seriously. I encourage you to read about the history of the industry, read biographies about the greats who either performed in it, created in it, or about the corporate business side of it. Try to meet and network as many people as possible. When you get that opportunity to meet someone who's an executive or who's had a long career in the industry, try to ask questions to understand their journey and also what has motivated them to get to that point. I also encourage you to continue to invest in yourself after school. Once you graduate, whether it's undergrad, high school, college, or graduate school, and you get into the industry, I encourage you to keep taking steps to improve your skills, learn about how the industry works, and just continue your education. And it takes a lot of effort, but you can do it. You may find conferences you can attend. There may be weekend seminars on topics, whether it's from screenwriting to, playwriting to whatever that you can take. But each year, as you're going on as a professional, just don't leave your education or your learning and development to your job. Find other outside avenues in order to keep learning and investing in yourself in the industry. And the last piece of advice is consume content. I think no matter what part of the industry you work in, watching content, consuming it, understanding it, thinking about it is critical. Whether you're doing deals, whether you're making content, whether you're someone who's sourcing talent, it all is connected. And so make sure you stay connected to the content in the industry.
Wonderful. Thank you. Such sound advice. To that end, what would you say is the best career advice that you've ever given?
I've ever
received.
Given or received.
Mm-hmm.
This advice was given to me and I have given it to others, and I've had people come back years later and thank me, even like a decade later. And when I was practicing corporate law, I went to see my father and I was visiting home, a vacation break. And I told him that I was going to go into the entertainment business and I was trying to look for jobs. My father was a small businessman, and he looked at me and he said, "That sounds amazing." And he said, "Just remember, you build it fast, it crumbles fast." And that advice was so important because what he was trying to impart to me was that, I needed to build my foundation, get my skills, make my relationships, if I'm going to have a career in this industry and have success, and also accept, it's not going to happen all overnight. It's going to be a journey and it's going to take time, and be patient. And that advice came from him being a small businessman. He ran black barbershops for years. And, that longevity of the journey and the way to think about your career. It was a powerful advice. It was important advice I hold on and keep to this day. And I've had several people come back to me who, and when they were leaving college or just starting out in the industry, I gave them that advice and they thanked me, because at moments they found themselves getting impatient or worried or thinking like everything's not happening fast enough. And as the years have passed and time has passed, they realized the foundation they were building for longevity. So that would be the advice.
I love that. And that's truly the best advice. I love that. I'm going to hold on to that as well. Let's talk a little bit about our industry. What can the media industry do better to include diverse voices and experiences in the workplace and even in leadership positions?
Yeah. So look, inclusion in the media has never been more important than right now. And there's still a lot of work we all have to do on this diversity and inclusion front. A couple of things I'd say is I mean, one, when it comes to presenting content, I think that each like media brand and outlet ought to think about what diversity for them means and how can they promote it and be more inclusive about it. And for example, I'll give you is at OWN. At OWN, our core audience are African-American women 25 to 54. So when we talk about diversity, oftentimes it's diversity of lifestyles. We had a scripted show, David Makes Man, that had a very prominent character who had a trans lifestyle. We have a new scripted show coming out where we are going to have a person who is a little person, which is going to show diversity of a type of person that maybe doesn't get on TV very much. We have had shows where we've shown gay and lesbian lifestyles. We are very conscious about showing different people with different complexions, hairstyles, body shapes. We think about diversity in all of those different ways. But for our brand and what we do, that's the conversations we're having. I think that every brand in the media landscape should think about for them how they want to embrace it and the way that makes the most sense for their platforms and their audiences. So that's one thing I'd say. The second thing I'd say is that when it comes to hiring and promoting, we've got to create more diverse pipelines. That's just the bottom line fact. We got to do it everywhere. And that starts from trying to make sure you have an entry-level diverse workforce. And I think everybody keeping that front of mind as you're hiring when opportunities present themselves or candidates present themselves is a good thing for us all just to think about, but also making sure that as you're nurturing all your employees and bringing them along their journey, as you should do, right, that you make sure that it feels like you're a little self-reflective as a company to make sure that there's some diversity with all those employees you're bringing along and nurturing and growing and developing. So I think that those are just a few things the industry can do on different sides of it, but I'm incredibly hopeful about the future. I think there's such a commitment in our industry at all levels to get this right and to get more voices in the room, because as we all know, the more diverse voices, the better business you have, and the more interesting and engaging content gets made.
Couldn't agree more. Thank you so much, Tina, for being a champion in that space. I believe that, and you've shown it over and over again, so thank you for that. Okay, we know our time is almost up, but we must ask the burning question, which is on everyone's mind. What is it like to work with the icon, Oprah Winfrey?
I love answering this question. She is incredibly collaborative. She is hyper creative, an incredibly smart businesswoman. And I think one of the skills I have gained the most from her and what I've learned the most from and that I love is like, she is a phenomenal listener. And not just a listener of being silent. I mean, a listener of listening to your words and also being very conscious and reflective of where, if she does not understand what you said or think she might could misconstrue some use of words that you shared. And just being a phenomenal listener and genuinely caring what people have to say and figuring out how to collaborate and build on it has been such an amazing experience to be a part of and to put in my arsenal. She's also incredibly funny. I do spend time laughing with her. She likes to crack jokes, tell stories, and hear stories. And so that's what I'd say. Those are sides of her a lot of people may not think about. You always think about living your best life and being positive and intentionality, and all of that 100% is there. But these other traits I described are day in and day out what I experience. And it's just been truly a privilege to work with her and lead her business.
Amazing. Thank you for sharing that. It has been an absolute pleasure, Tina. And on behalf of the One Day Immersion program, I want to thank you for taking the time to speak with us today. We wish you continued success.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I loved this conversation. I hope we get to do it again.
I do too. I look forward to it.
Okay.
Bye.